Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to another episode of
A BJJ Marriage, where we talk about our lives as a married Jiu Jitsu couple.
Boom.
Action.
We've done it.
3, 2, 1, go. BJJ Marriage, episode 77, take 4.
Take 4.
Take 4.
A week later. Maybe.
Jesus. It was an interesting experience last week, so apologize. Cheers.
Cheers. Episode 77.
Welcome. welcome. Seriously, so we tried to record last week 3 times. We weren't intending to skip last week. We were not hungover from the wedding. We were actually sitting right here with all of this on, and it did not go our way.
It was difficult. Very difficult.
The first time we recorded, so the dogs were going wild. Like, they're upstairs, they're not even on the same floor, but you can still kind of hear them pitter-pattering around. Mm-hmm. And they went crazy within the first 5 minutes, and we're like, it's fine. Like, it's just a little bit. Yeah. But then at minute 17, they started going ballistic. And I mean, like, running back and forth like they were doing the freaking Iron Man. And they were barking and screaming.
For like a couple minutes.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop.
We were trying to wait. We were trying to wait it out.
And then we said, in the middle of that, we were like, we have never stopped a podcast.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yeah, 77 times.
Yeah. Never have had to do that. So we waited it out for just a minute. We were going to give you guys like 30 seconds of silence and just listen to our dogs bark, and we were going to apologize for it. But that didn't happen because they didn't stop for like 3 minutes straight. And we're like, all right, we're done. We're done with this episode. So then we tried to take 2. We're like, we're only 17 minutes in. Let's just restart. So we did take 2, and the microphone literally fell in Nick's coffee. Didn't touch it.
Yeah, it just was like, bloop.
It was like, I don't want to stand anymore.
Twice.
Yes, twice.
Fell twice.
One of those times was in those first 17 minutes. So on top of the dogs barking 2 different times, the microphone fell, and it was just going to be terrible for your earbuds, and I apologize.
Yep. And we also do other things to insulate the noise that happens in the house that we failed to do. So all those things were kicking in. And then we gave up. We tapped out. We were like, nope. This is enough tries for this week.
I was so hangry, too. I just wanted to eat because it was getting late in the afternoon, and now we had spent like an hour between like prepping and getting ready and setting up and then recording twice. And I was like, I'm over it. I'm done. I wanted to be eating by now.
Yep. So then we had lunch and had a nap.
Yep. So now we're here. So sorry we missed last week.
Yes. But, yeah, you know, it's important to post your L's sometimes. Let people know life's not perfect, right?
Yep. Is this what they do when we're not home?
I don't know.
Because they have been sleeping all morning, and now they're deciding to walk around.
Maybe they're looking for us, or who we're talking to.
Maybe. That's possible. So if you hear our dogs pitter-pattering, I apologize. At least they're not going ballistic yet. Let's see what happens at minute 17 today.
Yes.
Anyway, so what were we going to talk about this week? We're going to talk about leg locks.
We were going to talk about leg locks, but you want to talk about Halloween first?
What about Halloween? Oh, our party?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a really fun last 2 weeks of training, actually. We've gotten a lot of good days in. But on Friday, October 20... What day was that? What's today's date?
The 23rd today?
Is today the 23rd?
Yeah.
Shut up. No.
Shut the front door.
It is the 23rd. Where has time went? All right. So on the 21st.
Into the past. Time went to the past.
Thanks.
You're welcome. That's how it works.
So we had our annual Halloween party at Fluid on Friday the 21st this year. It was our 3rd year, I think, right? 3rd or 4th. One of the 2.
Something like that.
But we've been doing the Halloween party for a while now, and every year it's just getting better, I would say. More people, more decorations, just a really fun time. The only thing that I was really upset about this year is that my dad and I put no effort into it at all. Like, normally we kind of have a little powwow and we talk about everything that we want to do and like the contests that we want to have and the prizes we want to give away and things like that.
We haven't even seen your dad in like a month.
No. We didn't do any of that. So I literally texted him Friday morning and I was just like, hey, we didn't talk about the Halloween party at all. do you want to do anything? And he was just like, we suck. So we ended up just making it an open mat with costumes. There was nothing super, super special about it, but it was still a fun time.
It was a super good time. We went as lifeguards, and on my lifeguard shirt, I was an anti-lifeguard. And I put down my favorite guards currently, which is butterfly guard, and I had X guard and K guard on my anti-lifeguard costume, and it was very funny.
Yes.
Well, at least to me.
It was funny. And then you tried to write on me, and I was like, no. But mine was a slut shirt, apparently.
Yeah.
False advertising at its finest.
And then we said we worked as a team because I was the anti-lifeguard killing people, and she was the lifeguard trying to save people.
Mm-hmm. From your X guard and K guard.
Yeah. And I was like, I will take them to the deep waters and drown them with my Jiu Jitsu. That was my catchphrase.
Yeah. For sure. It was fun, though. We had a good time. But my costume, so really, we're really limited in what we can do for costumes when we're going to roll in them. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things you have to think about. First things first is that it's going to rip. It's going to rip. It's going to get dirty. It's going to get damaged. So you don't want to buy anything.
You're probably not going to wear it again either.
Yeah. So you probably don't want to get anything like that $80 costume at Halloween Express because it's just going to get ripped. Unless you have that kind of cash floating around that you're fine with that. I don't want to pay $80 to rip it. So we normally go to Goodwill, but we didn't have time to make it before they closed this week. So we went to, it's not Halloween Express anymore, so I'm ruining that. It's Party City's Halloween Express version.
Yeah, it was some random Halloween store we found.
Yep.
That popped up in a dead strip mall.
Yep, pretty much. So that doesn't sound scary at all. So we stopped there and we just looked around for a little bit and tried to figure out what we wanted to do. And we ended up finding the lifeguard costumes for $20 each. And we're like, sold, done. Because then it also doesn't puncture the mat because there's no zippers, there's no sequins, there's nothing like that. And it was a matching costume. So we got to look cute together, I guess. And
I guess.
Well,
I had to look way cuter than she did.
Okay. My costume, literally, like, I knew it was going to be a crop top. But I was like, oh, I'll just wear a rash guard under it. It's fine. And I expected it to be a little bit more flowy of a crop top because that's what the picture showed. And it was only $20, so I didn't want to try it on because I wasn't going to find anything else. And we got home, I tried it on, and it was a bra. It was
basically a glorified bra.
Yeah, it was a sports bra. And I was like, all right.
But not even for enough support for a sports bra.
Yeah.
Your boobs would have just fallen out the bottom if
pretty much.
No sports bra.
But now it was too late, so I had to wear it. And so I put on a sports bra underneath that sports bra. And I put on a cami. And I also wore spandex underneath the shorts because my butt was also hanging out. And I was like, my God, do girls really wear this crap? Like, seriously? Like, without anything on it? Even with extra clothing, I still felt like a whore.
Well, it sucks for you.
So anyone
I didn't feel like a whore at all.
Anyone who had to roll with me on Friday, I apologize that my boobs were falling out. That never has happened to you. I know it hasn't. And so I apologize, and it will not happen again.
Yeah. But that was fun dressing up and rolling.
Yeah.
What was your favorite costume of the night?
I really liked Ellie's and Joe's.
That was my favorite costume. Joe's squirrel costume.
Yep.
He had a full on, like, not like a bodysuit for a squirrel, but like almost like a cheap mascot costume for a squirrel. Yeah. So I was just looking over and I saw this little, like, this giant squirrel, actually, because it's like 250 pounds. And he's just a squirrel in side control. And you see this big puffy tail with, like, squirrel ears. Like,
he kept walking around with his nuts.
Yeah. And he also had 2 nuts. It was awesome. I loved it.
And then his wife, Ellie, was wearing a hunting costume. So she was the hunter and he was the squirrel.
Yeah.
And she had a bow and arrow.
And she was killing him.
It was great. It was my favorite one of the night. There were some good ones, though. Yeah. Like, someone came as a priest, which was super funny. Because he's
talking about the nun? That was a nun.
Nun. I meant nun.
Yeah.
Yep. I was thinking about the cross, and I was like, yep. He was a nun. So, shout out to Dave.
Yeah, and I think he was trying to be... It looked like the scary nun. At least, maybe all nuns are scary now after that movie that came out with the scary nun, which I can't recall the movie name.
We had a couple show up as Tiger King and a tiger.
Oh my God, Tiger King was hilarious.
He put on, like, the really gross mustache, too, that, like, went all the way down to his chin, and it was just terrible, and he bought the wig, and it was awful.
And then your dad, since he was bald, he pulled off a really good Mr. Clean.
Mexican Mr. Clean.
Mexican Mr. Clean.
And he put on, like, white eyebrows and everything. Well, we should put that picture on the cover.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah, so that was that one. We had a female from Lilo and Stitch, the Pink Stitch. I don't know her name.
Yep.
But,
nobody knows her name.
Yeah, but the Pink Stitch. She was there.
Yes.
Sarah was dressed up as... You put the lotion on the skin. I don't know his name, but it's from Hannibal Lecter's... Hannibal. No. God, you guys are going to hate me, I know.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, hate him more. I at least know the movie I'm talking about. But that one crazy movie...
I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs in like years.
That one! Why would you not say the name?
What? I just said it.
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, so she was the guy who dresses up as a woman and, like, tucks in his hoo-ha so that he can look like he has a hoo-ha.
I do not remember this at all. You sound insane right now.
But that's what he does. And then he, like, she's down in the, like, hole or the well and he's holding his yipper-yapping dog.
Maybe there's a reason I don't remember this movie.
It was traumatizing.
Yeah.
That's why I remember it. And she was dressed up as the guy, and she was wearing like the robe, and she had the crazy hair. She was holding the dog. Even she put not the lotion. She put the lipstick all over her, and she was. God, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, and I apologize. I just clapped in your ear, but.
Oh wow.
It was so good. So shout out Sarah. That was a good costume. I can't remember his name, but he's you put the lotion on the skin, dude.
That sounds fucking scary.
It was scary. It's a scary movie.
Well, I don't know. All I remember from all of the Silence of the Lambs movies is the brain eating scene.
I don't even remember that.
That's all.
Maybe we should watch that one next after Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, maybe.
So anyway, our Halloween party was fantastic. We got to roll for like 2 hours with the kids first and the adults after. So that was super fun.
I definitely used a lot of X-Guard and Butterfly Guard.
Good. You should, with the way that your shirt was presenting yourself.
Nogi.
Yeah, and then we actually went to a haunted house that night, too, with our fluid group. So we went as a team, which was super cool.
That was super fun, yeah.
Yeah.
We got to see a man in a wheelchair scare the living shit out of one of our friends, which was the highlight of our night. At least for me.
He didn't even do anything.
He was in a corner. He was in a wheelchair. He was dressed up like a zombie or whatever. And I walked past him. And then he started wheeling towards the group. And this one girl that was in our group, that was in the middle of the line, just looked over, saw him wheeling over to her, and then she just let out this blood-curdling scream, just like, ah! For like 4 seconds straight. And she just froze in place. And the wheelchair guy just froze in place also, like, oh my god, this is hilarious.
The wheelchair guy laughed. It was so, you did a good job when you make an actor laugh.
Yeah. He was like, I can't scare you anymore. This is too much.
It was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. And it was funny because someone actually said in our group, he was just like, yeah, put a bunch of trained martial artists in a haunted house and make sure nothing happens.
Yes.
And he punched you because you scared him.
Oh, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of our members of the group, I kept scaring him over and over, just myself. And I got too close to him when I did it. He gave me a very strong push with one arm into my chest.
That's a way to put it.
Yes.
But he didn't
May have been open fist, may have been closed fist, who knows?
He didn't do it to an actor, though, so we're good.
No. He took it out on me.
We also took my 14-year-old sister as well, and that was her first haunted house ever, which was pretty cool. She didn't think it was as scary as we were hyping it up to be, but that's okay.
Maybe she felt too safe around us. We should have just left her in the middle of the woods.
I did tell her, though, I was like, there was 11 of us, and when there's that many, it isn't as scary because you can kind of see what's coming. Like, if you're in the back, you see what's coming in the front. If you're in the front, you know you're going to get scared, but you know that they're also not going to get you every time because they want to get the middle and the back, too. So when you're in a huge group like that, it is less scary. Yeah. And you do feel safe when you're with your friends. But anyways,
so yes.
After that, then yesterday we did this really weird Alice in Wonderland escape room in Milwaukee.
Which has nothing to do with Jiu Jitsu.
No. But I'm just talking about the weekend. But that was very fun.
It was like Pokemon Go, but Alice in Wonderland, but only one day.
Yeah.
And it took us around the city, which was very enjoyable.
And it was 75 and sunny in October in Wisconsin. So that was pretty cool.
What a great treat.
But anyway. So, we also played Catan.
Yes, we did.
We've never played Catan before, but we played that.
We were settling cool. Catan.
Yep.
And she doesn't get wheat. She gets straw or hay.
Yeah, I forgot that it was called wheat, so I just kept calling it hay. Anyway, okay, so what we wanted to talk about today was leg locks.
Yes, which is why we're in our no-gi outfits.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
I even curled my hair for this.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
I did not curl my hair. I apologize.
So we wanted to bring up leg locks because I feel like it's a topic that we have kind of not avoided, but we just haven't talked about it in any of our episodes yet.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it with the Joey Deal episode.
Yeah, a little bit.
About Joey's seminar.
But I know that we did an entire episode on stand-up and takedowns, and that I felt like by the time that we were done recording that episode, there were so many things that I could have kept talking about. And I feel like leg locks are kind of the same way. There's a million things in a million different directions to go.
It's almost like its own zone of jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a takedown battle, that's a zone. There's like the top position, there's bottom position, there's attack, there's defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those things have their own specialties within the leg lock zone also.
Mm-hmm. I can tell that we've been training leg locks a lot. So with my injury on my chest, I wasn't able to do a whole lot of jiu-jitsu for a while because a lot of it would include like twisting and turning and pressure, and I wasn't able to handle any of that. But what I could do was leg pummeling because that was all lower ab work and it wasn't bothering where my sternum was hurting. So for the last couple of weeks, I've just been doing a lot of leg drills and leg pummeling and kind of just like rolling with egg beaters and things in that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was rolling with one of the leg lockers at our gym at the Halloween party, actually, Ian, he told me at the end of our 2 rounds, he was just like, you were defending leg locks very well. And I was just like, yeah, that's all I've been working out for about a month.
Has the back of the knee pick trick been helping you?
Yes, a lot.
Thank you, Josh Janis, for that trick to me also.
Megan told me, so.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's been helping a lot.
I feel like I also told you that.
You probably did.
Yeah.
It's stuff more with Megan, though.
Yeah, it makes sense. Who would listen to their husband? Fuck that shit.
We were kind of going off track a little bit. I was at work this week, and I work on a team of 5 people, including myself, and 2 of them are a husband and a wife. And they actually, they work really well together. They've been doing it for years, but they're husband and wife, so they bicker and they fight about really stupid little things every once in a while. And you just kind of learn to ignore it. And I was talking to another person on my team, not the husband and wife, and we were just talking about them as a duo working together and how they get along. And I told her, I was like, it's literally the exact same thing with Nick and I in jiu-jitsu, though, because I have this theory that when you're with someone...
Interesting. What kind of theory?
When you're married, you are equals. Like, you're at home, you split the chores, you split the money, you split everything. Like, you are equals in every other... Like, most of the time. You're equals in every
She has
way.
one dog, I have the other dog.
But we have equal responsibilities in everything that we do as a married couple. But when we're in jiu-jitsu, he's a much higher rank than I am. And so there is that seniority there. There is that sense of, like, someone's going to be better than the other one. And there is really no equality anymore at that point. Like, everyone's equal on the mat when you're trying to do respect, but when it comes to skill, there is a difference there. And that's kind of how it was for this married couple that I work with, because not only is he above her in seniority as a financial advisor and her as an assistant, he's also the branch manager. So he has 2 seniorities over her. And so I was just saying to my coworker, I was like, yeah, it's the same with Nick and I. Whereas, like, we get along great. We can even work together great. But you're going to argue about little things on the mat because you just don't want to be unequal. You want to be, like, it's hard to not be able to, I guess, how do I want to word this?
Not to keep it in mind or something? Or
yeah.
For it not to be standing out as different to your rest of your relationship? Or
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Because then even more couples who train together, they say the same thing, that, like, the female always has a harder time listening to the male, even when it's Ellie and Joe, when she's higher ranked than him, because you just don't want to have that, like, sense of equality go away. And so it's really hard to listen and take note from your spouse just because you want to, I guess.
I mean, I've definitely learned things from you, though.
Really?
Through rolling with you. Yeah, because you're, like, good at things that I have to defend better. So it helps me get better at jiu-jitsu, that's how it works. But, like, the difference is you never try to help me with anything, like, intentionally. Right? So you're never like, hey, Nick, I noticed when you did this that it would I've learned that this really helps me with that. Right? I've never had you tell me that. Right? But how many times have we been rolling and I would be like, hey, Brittany, I really noticed this, and I feel like this information would serve you a lot right now.
Yeah, you've done that a lot.
Like when we were pummeling legs, and I was like, that was good, but one thing you should look for is the back of the knee pit to break open their leg holds or whatever.
Yeah.
And you didn't remember, obviously.
Nope, I heard it from Megan.
Yes, but I remember telling you that.
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess you don't want me to tell you anything?
No, I do. Keep helping.
Yeah, and same thing for you. Keep helping, you know?
I feel like we do. They're fighting again.
They're fighting a little
They
bit.
made it past 17 minutes, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been drilling leg locks a lot in the last couple... Well, you've been studying it for basically the whole year.
I've been studying leg locks at least this whole year, if not longer. I've been really using leg positions as control points in my rolls, and I think that showed through in my last competition.
Mm-hmm. I would say so, because you got to pull off your first knee bar.
Yes, got my first knee bar last competition.
In a competition.
Boom, and my first ankle lock in a competition, which is also a leg lock.
Yep, and I feel like deja vu right now, because we talked about all this in the first 17 minutes last
No
week.
way. Yes.
But no, that was super cool. Your knee bar was like textbook. And actually, so that's a way that you've been helping my jiu-jitsu quite a bit in the last 2 weeks since the tournament, is I've been working on that specific knee bar quite a bit, and I've been trying to figure out how to turn my position, and there's been at least twice that I've said out loud, I'm like, how did he get his leg through that? Because one of them, the first time I did it was with Mike Coy, and I was literally like in the position, and I was grabbing his leg, and then I was like, how do I get my leg through there? And then he had to help me. He like worked my hips a little bit so that he could figure out how to help me get there easier.
I know one thing I did in competition that I don't do in normal rolling is I basically jumped into the knee bar. So I had my hip was posted on him, my foot was on the ground, and my hand was posted on like over his shoulder, right? And it was kind of like a reverse half guard face the problem type position. And when I saw the knee bar there, because I already had his leg hooked with my arm, and I had my other leg on the bottom side of his, or the outside of his hip, so my leg needed to just come through his legs. So I literally jumped to throw my leg in there, and I chopped with my heel right in his gooch area to get that pinch right away.
Okay.
So obviously in training, you want to do a lot smoother so that you're not kicking people in the junk.
Sure. Slower.
Right. Slower.
Fast.
Exactly. And then you get used to it, right? So when I taught it that week, at that like reverse side control that I showed, that's where I showed you bring the knee out and then you thread it through and then you fall over for the knee bar. You remember that?
Yes.
But in competition, it was more so a jump and a pull. And then I jumped directly into the knee bar.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense. But drilling it, I was just like, my hip doesn't go that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because if you stay connected while you do it, you are going to run into them and your leg won't be able to fit through the space. So you've got to be fluid enough to...
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Fluid. You got to be fluid enough to make that transition without enough space for them to escape immediately.
It's like there's a reason our school is called Fluid.
Yes. But, I mean, that's a good segue into leg locks in general because... I think a lot of reason old school people don't like leg locks is because if you go for a leg lock, most of the time you're going to give up a dominant position, which is either top for if you're on top and go back to a leg lock, they're going to be able to sit up at least. If you are trying to pass the guard and you go for a leg lock, now you're on your butt or on your back instead of on your knees or standing. And if you're in the bottom, I think it's a great way to get out of bottom position is to go into leg locks because you get a little bit more neutral. But, that's where most people enter leg locks is from the bottom. But then that also creates a habit of going to guard immediately to go for leg locks, which a lot of people don't like because that takes away from your top game. If you train only leg locks, a lot of times you neglect your top game. So a lot of times you see guard pullers who are always just on the bottom submitting from their guard. And then a lot of times you see people just working top game, and you don't ever see them going towards the legs because they're in mount or back positions more often.
Yeah. I would say that drilling it is the way to get it. And I know that's like sounds super cheesy, and obviously everyone knows that that's how it works, but
oh, that's lame.
That's really how you have to get good at leg locks, though. Like, you don't just magically know how to, you see it once and you're like, oh, I know how to do that. Leg locks are, like we said, its own world.
Yes.
And so it's 50% of your body. And
okay, Dean Lister.
and so I think that's kind of like the reason that white belts typically don't do leg locks, is because there's so much to learn that
Already?
You want to try to learn that top game. You want to try to learn those basic positions before you start going into complex movements like leg locks, because first of all, white belts can't even do heel hooks.
Sure.
Not physically, but I mean, like, in competition, you can't do a leg lock.
It's a legal technique.
Yeah. And so I know that when I was a white belt, I didn't drill leg locks at all. Did I say when I was a leg lock, or did I say when I was a white belt?
I don't know.
After I said that out loud, I was like, I may have just said when I was a leg lock. But
I can't remember.
When I was a white belt, I did not do leg locks at all. I remember every time I would learn a heel hook, I would just give it up because I'm like, I don't care. I can't do it in competition. I don't want to end up liking it and then end up doing it because I don't know better. And I was just
want to end up liking it. It's like a drug. I'm just not going to do that drug.
I did that a couple times as a white belt, though, where I would learn a submission in class that I knew I wasn't allowed to do in competition, and I would totally let it go over my head because I'm like, if I end up liking it, I don't know enough to know what I'm doing in a competition, where if I see it and I have it drilled in my memory to do that, I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to get disqualified for doing it because I don't know better. Now, obviously, I can handle myself a little bit better. But as a white belt, I remember thinking, like, well, if I can't do it in competition, why am I going to do it now?
Because as a white belt, you had no game plan.
Yeah, exactly.
You were just like, Jiu Jitsu, I'll do all the things, whatever happens.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of why I've heard from a lot of white belts, like, oh, I don't touch legs, like, they scare me. I hear that more often than not. And they can be. I mean, you don't feel a heel hook until you feel a heel hook.
I feel like being scared of leg locks is a symptom of a lot of people saying that they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, leg locks are not as dangerous as like Kimuras, like omoplatas, wrist locks, neck pranks.
Kimura is what put me out.
Exactly. Like, there's so many people in competition that just get their shoulders blown out because they don't tap to Kimuras because they feel like they're going to be flexible enough to get out of it, and they know better. I think the leg locks get a bad rep because the heal time is so much longer if you do get hurt. And I think a lot of people don't understand leg locks as much as they do other positions.
Right.
So, like, a Kimura is just as destructive as a leg lock is. If your shoulder gets ripped and torn out of socket, you're probably out 3 to 6 months also.
Well, I mean, even think about a rear naked choke as a trach choke. If someone doesn't know how to properly put on a blood choke for a rear naked, you may have messed up your trachea. So that's also dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts.
Yeah, but you're probably not going to be out for...
You might be.
The rest of your life, maybe? I don't know. But, yeah, leg locks...
like little children arms. There's this little child. I don't even know how old he is, probably 6, but he's got these little tiny arms. He rear naked choked me the other day, but he didn't do a proper blood choke. He did a trachea choke, and because his arms are so dainty, oh my God, it was the most painful thing I've ever been in.
It feels like a wire going around your neck.
Yeah. I was like, okay, tap, tap, tap. And then he didn't let go because he's little, and I was like, oh my God.
Kids. Yeah, but leg locks kind of have this... I think not enough people understand them to teach them in a safe way, is where I was going with that.
Yeah. And that's kind of the new era of jiu-jitsu, I would say. And going back to what you said about the whole old school, there's a lot of old school black belts who kind of grew up in the last 20... So prior to...
earlier waves of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, if you were training...
like 10 years ago?
Yeah, I would say anything from 10 years ago on, you probably have not been as exposed to leg locks as the new generation is. And now you're kind of also learning, not that you didn't know a leg lock, but now because it's become so expansionary. Is that a word?
No.
It's expanded so much. I mean, there's so many BJJ fanatics on there. Look at
free YouTube videos.
Yeah, look at the Danaher Death Squad. Look at ADCC that just happened. I mean, there's so much that goes into leg locks now that were just non-existent 10 years ago. And so it's a whole new game, and you can kind of decide what route you want to go. But all the old school black belts are just, again, you're giving up position. So why would we teach that? We want to teach you how to win a fight, not how to lose your position.
Sport jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, how to protect your life. Because if you're in a fight and you go for a leg lock, maybe you put them out and they can't walk, but you can still get some pretty hefty damage done to you.
Yeah. You can still get punched. You can still get thrown. Like someone who's like super drunk or high and they don't feel the pain, they'll probably just keep going on the adrenaline trying to attack you.
Not if you destroy their knee, because it literally won't work. But
yeah,
that seems difficult.
Yeah.
To do. You're gonna come out not as good as you want to come out of that fight.
True. But yeah, it's just giving up other, I guess this is probably a biased opinion, but you're giving up better positions for
that's
a leg lock. It is. And that's what I'm saying. But that's, I think, how the old school leg lock or the old school black belts think about it. You're giving up a better position for a not so good position.
Yeah.
And you could win. I mean, most people now, especially if you train leg locks, you're probably going to get it. But I don't know, then there's other people who just like the side control better, or like the mount better, or like the back better, and think that they will always go for that over heel hook.
Yeah, which is fine. In my game, I aim it to be dangerous from everywhere. So that's why I've been diving into leg locks a lot recently.
I thought it was kind of cool because since I just started rolling within the last week and a half again with people, I was rolling with Ellie, one of my favorite training partners, and it was my first time rolling with her in over a month. And I realized that my game with her actually changed because I had been starting to go for leg locks on her way more. And before that, I had never gone for leg locks on her. And I realized, because I was just doing it as second nature, because that's what I had been drilling for a month. And then I was just doing it to her, and I was like, we've never rolled like this before. This is not how our rolls go. And then I was like, I'm changing my jiu-jitsu right now, and I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting. And I told her, I was like, this is all I've been doing for a month, because it's all I could do with my injury. So, and she's like, that's fine, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so going back to people not teaching leg locks properly, I think the best way to teach leg locks is, because I've been teaching leg locks to white belts now in 6 a.m. classes for the last few weeks, and that's not the first time I've introduced it into 6 a.m. classes. But, I mean, half the 6 a.m. crew is white belts. But what I'm really showing them is the different leg positions and how to get there.
You got to give out your first stripe.
I did get to give out my first stripe.
How exciting.
As an instructor. That was super fun. What a moment. Round of applause.
Ooh.
Milestone in my journey. 5 years of jiu-jitsu, I got to give out my first stripe as an instructor. How about that?
It was the guy's first stripe on his white belt too, which is cool.
So,
but he's only a 6 a.m.er, so.
What does that mean?
No, I mean.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I meant you were the only one there to give him a stripe. My dad doesn't go to 6 a.m. He would never. Only twice a year, just to say he's done it.
I mean, Mike was there. Anyways. What was I talking about? Yeah, so I've been introducing leg positions as the simple, straight ashigarami position, and how to hold it, how to get out of it, how to transition into it as basic as basic goes, and then showed them an ankle lock with it also. Didn't show them a heel hook right away, but I was introducing the position. And then, so we spent
position before submission.
That's right. And then we spent a couple weeks just on that, the attack 1 week, and then the defense the other week. And then the week after that, I taught them how to use single leg X guard, how to get into that, and then use that to get right into the leg position as a sweep. And then we stemmed off of that into X guard, which obviously can open up a lot of other things. So can single leg X. But the point is, integrating the leg positions as a place to go in your jiu-jitsu. And then eventually I plan on integrating all the other types of leg entanglements, because that's the other part that's really hard about learning leg locks, is deciphering all the different leg positions.
Yes.
So there's with your, feet on the inside, feet on the outside, and then there's straight and cross, which, you put those 4 spots together, that gives you 4 different leg positions. And then you have the 50-50, and then you have the saddles, and then you have all the other crazy leg entanglements that stem out from there.
Saddle was the
those
first
are like
one
the
I learned.
basic ones. Yeah, from backstep?
Yep.
Yes.
I learned saddle, and then from our private lesson with Charles Harriet on Zoom, he taught us some really cool ways to hit saddle as well.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped playing with that, actually.
I've never stopped.
I should keep doing that.
I taught saddle last week, Thursday in the morning, from the backstep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're teaching the white belts how to do leg locks, but you're doing it in a safe way, because you're telling them how those basic positions on how to
I'm teaching them transitions in and out.
Yeah.
Like you teach a guard pass. You don't teach the first class. You don't teach like an Americana. You teach a way to get to side control and then how to hold side control.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I think that that's really important for not white belts, but anyone, is you have to understand the position before you can learn how to do the submission. And I know that sounds really corny. There's actually a BJJ Fanatics feed that said, what is some of the things that you hear and say in jiu-jitsu that are so corny, but you absolutely love it? And so many of them. It was a great thread. I loved reading it. So many of it was like oaths and then position before submission. And there's so much. It was awesome. Anyway, what was I saying? Understanding the position is important, because if you don't understand what you're doing or how to do it, then how do you ever expect to execute it? And how do you ever expect to defend it?
Right.
It's kind of going back to our cog theory that we have at Fluid, where like you have to learn how to do the
different steps.
Yeah.
And the different goals that each position is holding.
Yep.
Or each submission is attempting to do.
Mm-hmm. Like if you think about your favorite submission that you like to do, doesn't matter what it is, but think about how you like to do it, and think about the steps that it takes you to get there. Mm-hmm. And all of the different things you have to do. And even though it's in one swift, quick 1 or 2 second motion, you still have to do it all in order to execute that submission properly. Yes. And that's the same with a leg lock. There's so many different things you have to do in order to be able to secure that leg and in order to get that tap. But if you can understand all of those different cogs in that, and mm-hmm. you know how to stop it, that's when your jiu-jitsu is really going to increase and get better. Spike.
It'll get exponential Larry.
Mm-hmm. I actually just told one of our white belt friends that on Friday, not about leg locks, but he was really tired. He had just rolled for 5 rounds in a row, and I asked him if he wanted to roll, even though he was super out of breath. And he's like, he looked at the timer and he was like, 5 minutes. And I was like, no, now. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, Brittany, you're killing me. And I was like, you're going to be okay. Let's go. You don't have to be explosive. We can just flow. We can roll.
We can move around.
And he was like, okay. So we rolled, and I noticed he started out flowing. He was going really slow, and then he started amping it up and getting like more heavy breathing, and he started being a little bit more explosive. And I got back on top of him, and I pretty much pinned him down, and I said to him, I was like, hey, calm down. And he was just like, and he was like, oh, okay. Like you could tell that in his white belt mind.
There was a realization. Yeah. He was like, oh, I am not calm.
Yeah.
You are correct.
And it was funny.
It's the only time that phrase have ever worked to anybody ever.
And I just told him, I was like, so I put him in a bad position and like physically put him there. And I told him, I let him get out of it first of how he would want to do it. But the way he did it was very explosive. It was very sporadic. And I put him back in that position.
She said, no.
I did. It was triple threat. So I put him back in triple threat. And he had his back facing away from me. And I told him how to do the running man. I taught him the running man, which if you don't know what that is, I apologize. But so I taught him a good way to get out of that position in a much calmer and easy way.
Turtle?
I just had him completely roll.
Okay.
But then when he completely rolled, he made me roll with him. And then he was in a dominant position. And it was just so effortless for him. It was so simple. It was easy. It didn't require any energy. It was just a quick little movement. And you could see the light bulb in his eye, and he was just like,
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. And I literally said to him.
It didn't take any effort.
Yeah. I said to him at the end of our roll, I was like, once you can start figuring out those little details in your jiu-jitsu of how to make things easier and not so explosive, that's when you're going to get better. And then that was the end of our roll.
Spoken like a true blue belt. Look at you go. Wow. What a good moment for you two.
It was cool. It was really fun because I could just tell that he was so tired. Like, he didn't want to roll. He wanted that 5-minute break. And I was like, you don't need that 5-minute break. Your brain is telling you want a 5-minute break, but you don't need it.
Sure.
I was like, let's go.
Yes.
It'll be fine. And then I told him also with that little movement, I was like, if you can make all of your jiu-jitsu that effortless, you'll be able to roll for 2 hours straight with no effort, with no problem.
That's me.
But I get it. We've all been there. We've all been through that phase. Like, I remember I couldn't do more than like 3 rounds in a row for a long time.
I don't remember a period of my life where I couldn't roll forever. I'm sure that there was like when I started jiu-jitsu that, I only rolled for a couple of rounds and I was like tired. But honestly, I don't remember ever not being the last person on the mat unless we had to go somewhere.
Yeah, I can see that.
I feel like within the first 6 months, I didn't come into jiu-jitsu with bad cardio at all. And I feel like within the first 6 months, I was just like, people tell me what to do, and I'm just like, yes, I'll do it. And I do that forever until somebody's mopping me off the mats.
Fine. But most people.
Yeah, most people. Agreed.
But so the way that my dad has been talking about it a lot whenever we do have this subject come up is he just says, that's all you have. That's all you know. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have only been relying on your strength your entire life and you don't know jiu-jitsu to keep it effortless, to keep it simple,
yeah.
How are you going to fall back on it if you don't understand it?
Right.
And that can tie everything back together of if you don't understand it, then how are you ever going to do it? How are you ever going to defend it? And I think learning how to defend it before learning how to do it is way more important. Because more than likely it's going to get done to you before you're going to do it to someone else.
But there's a paradox there because you don't know what you're defending if you don't understand the attack.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's so complicated.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu's not easy.
Yeah. So.
It's simple, not easy.
That's correct. Is that on the shirt? That shirt thread? That's a good one. Anyways,
I'll write that down.
Yeah, with like an Americana, it's kind of easier to see what's going on with the shoulder. With leg locks,
I just typed in random letters just so it was like keeping my spot, and it literally it auto-corrected it to bruh.
Bruh. All right, bruh.
I don't even know what I typed, but it just went to bruh. So that means I probably typed that a lot.
Oh, that's funny. Anyways, I was saying with like an Americana, it's easy to figure out what's going on with the shoulder. Or the same thing, arm bars, it's easy to figure out what's going on with the elbow. It's going to break the wrong way. The knee has so many more pivot points that it's really hard to understand what's being broken outside of like a knee bar.
I think I'm going to keep bruh in the show notes.
Yeah. Because there's no rotation. There is a rotational arm lock, but it's very uncommon.
Right. It's difficult to execute.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But like rotational leg locks, that's typically the first time people are being exposed to rotational submission threats.
Mm-hmm. And then stop the hip and you got it.
Yes. And it's hard to feel leg locks. You feel arm locks much differently than the way you feel leg locks.
Yeah. That's where I really, really hate it when people say that leg locks is just a giant armbar. Because it's not. In a sense, I guess it is. As
simply put as possible, yes, it's a leg bar.
There's just so many different... It's not the same. I consider myself to be okay at arm bars, and I am terrible at leg locks. So they are not the exact same.
Well, obviously not the exact same, but they're the same.
In a way.
Anyways, so, you have to understand the breaking mechanics so that you know what you're defending against specifically, is what I was getting at. Mm-hmm. So, like, when you're learning the arm lock, you learned, okay, they're controlling my wrist, they're controlling my shoulder, and they're hyperextending my elbow. okay, so if they can't control one of those 2 points, it's going to be much easier for me. Excuse me.
Wow.
Wow. So if they can't control those 2 points, it's going to be much easier for me to get out of the arm lock, right? But with the leg lock, a lot of times they get a lot more control than just your wrist and just your shoulder before they go for the submission. And it's really hard to deconstruct those controls. And then on top of deconstructing the controls, you have to make sure that they don't get the proper exposure to get the leg locks. And for you to understand what those controls are and what the proper exposure is, you have to understand the attack before you can start to deconstruct it in a specific way based on the leg entanglement you're in and the leg lock that they're going for, which is different from arms because, okay, yeah, you got the straight arm lock, you got the Kimura, and you got the Americana, but they don't all come from the same position. They all come from different positions. You're not going to switch from a Kimura to an Americana without changing your whole orientation of your body. But you can absolutely go from an ankle lock to a heel hook without changing your position. And a knee bar. Well, your knee bar would change the position, but does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying there?
It was kind of a lot. I had to stop drinking my coffee and visualize. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the essence of jiu-jitsu though, is that it is complicated. You have to understand the position in order to, I guess, really either threaten or defend the position or the submission.
Yes. And just in the same way from side control, if you're attacking Americana and then if you attack a Kimura from side control, your body is oriented different ways when you're doing those attacks for the most part.
Right.
If I was attacking, let's say I had you in a cross ashi, if you started defending that really well and it went to a straight ashi, I don't have to move my legs at all. It's just the way that you moved your legs and the way I pass it across my body. Now it's a new position, which we didn't move very far, but it's a new position. And there's different attack options from there that have different defenses than where you just were from that last position. Versus in bottom side control, okay, if my arm is, my wrist is towards my hip, it's Kimura, it might be there. So if I bring my arm over my shoulder, maybe an Americana is there. That's a lot easier to differentiate and to become familiar with.
Yeah.
But there's so many different leg entanglements.
There's a lot.
That it's really hard to start to decipher those leg entanglements and then even start to decipher what happens in these leg entanglements.
Right. And that's, I think, where a lot of white belts get confused too. And blue belts too. I mean, I am not any... It
doesn't even matter belt. Everybody that starts that process gets confused.
It's hard.
Yes.
There's a lot that can happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when I was working with a black belt on how to finish that knee bar that I was telling you about earlier, it was...
The leg bar?
Yeah. But I mean, for that, I know how to execute an arm bar from there pretty well, but I don't know how to do a knee bar from there really well. And there was one point where I was like, oh, I have the hip, I have the knee, and I have the ankle. So those are my 3 pivot points. So I should be able to crack this leg right now. And nothing was happening. And he had to tell me how to, you have to change it from the outside to the inside. It should be touching your ear and all this stuff. And I was
control the toes. And
yep. And there's just a lot of little fine details in there. And how is a white belt, someone who has never seen this stuff before, is still trying to learn how to hold mount properly?
Yes.
How are they supposed to be able to figure all that out? It's just so complex.
It's true.
And that's why you can't really do it until purple belt sometimes, depending on the competition, but mostly brown and black is where you can start doing heel hooks.
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, when I'm introducing these leg positions to the morning classes, I haven't taught them a heel hook yet. And what I'm doing is teaching them transitions in and transitions out. Because I want them to learn it almost like you learn knee on belly. Mm-hmm. Everybody learns knee on belly as a position. How many people really teach knee on belly submissions though?
Right.
You learn how to get in, you learn how to get out. But I love submitting from knee on belly. That's one of my favorite spots to be in general. I just love surfing on people. Anyways, it's kind of like that. If you can teach the position, how people can get in, people can get out, then later on in their journey, if you started working in and out of saddle as a white belt, by the time you're end of your blue belt, you should have some pretty solid ways in and out of there and not be confused when somebody puts you in their saddle.
Right. Yeah, I learned saddle as a white belt, and I kind of fell in love with it pretty quickly. But again, it was going back to that, I can't do this in competition, so I'm not going to drill this extensively because I can't do it. So why would I do it? But
that's another big reason that white belts don't get showed any leg stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I find, and I didn't mean to cut you off,
okay.
But I find that learning those leg positions is also a way, if you're having a really hard time getting to a position you want, it's another path to that position through the leg positions.
Mm-hmm.
So I use that often.
But even learning the saddle as a white belt, like, I had to keep reminding myself that even though I couldn't do it in competition, it was good for the repetition to be able to keep drilling it and doing it and keeping it kind of back of mind for whenever I did need to use it. And so I did learn as I was drilling the saddle in the position that I like to get into it from, where I would do the back step and I'd step and I'd get under the knee. Mm-hmm. Whenever I would get there, I would end up stopping and I wouldn't try to submit from there. I would just use it as a transition type of thing. And whenever I would get to that saddle position, I'd be like, oh, this is actually kind of difficult. Like, I can get here, but now what?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think a lot of leg positions are, is you get there and then you're like, okay, but now how do I really do it? Like, if I can fill this space and now I have this ankle or I have this knee, how do I stop that hip? Because now they just rotated out of it. Now I have to start over.
Yeah, positional.
Yeah, or how do I get their toes underneath my armpit? Oh, crap, now they booted and now I have to figure something else out. And that's everything in jiu-jitsu. You learn something, but then they do something to counter it, and then you're like, well, crap.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of my things I was going to bring up also is leg entanglements is a path to other positions outside of leg locks. Mm-hmm. So like Nicky Ryan just came out with his BJJ Fanatics video about how to get to the back from leg entanglements, which is huge. Oh, having some fun there, hey? Yeah. But yeah, getting to the back from leg entanglements, that's something I do a lot. Another thing that I do is, like we were talking about, so back step. Okay. Remember the other day, sorry, I'm going, my brain's right now.
This is what happened with the stand-up one, too. We were just going everywhere, and we're like, there's so much!
So remember the other day, someone asked me what my favorite guard pass was, and then I said knee slice, and you both were like, well, I didn't expect you to say that.
No, but okay.
This woman remembers nothing that we talk about. Okay. But yeah, knee slice is one of my favorite, if not my favorite guard pass. And one of the reasons for that is I try a knee slice. If I'm getting stopped for a knee slice, then I can go right to saddle. Mm-hmm. And I use saddle to set up my knee slice again because people are like, oh, I don't like him being in the saddle. Mm-hmm. So as they try to get out of it, especially if they're inexperienced, I can just go immediately back to a knee slice pass from the saddle. Mm-hmm. And like, I use that as a way to pass the guard instead of a way to put people to break their legs.
And that's kind of where the belt system comes in, is you now, where like, I wouldn't probably think that far ahead. I would think like 1 step ahead or 2 steps ahead, but that's like 3 steps ahead for you. Yeah. You're just like, oh, well, if I go this way, then they're going to do this, which means that I can do this, and then get to where I want. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where that purple belt level is.
Yeah, who cares about purple belts? But yeah, using the leg positions to get to other places that you want to get to. Mm-hmm. It's a great path.
And drilling it, I know we mentioned this earlier, but drilling it really is key because, like I said, when I was rolling with Ellie for the first time in a month, I noticed that I was doing things without thinking about it. And I was like, oh, that's because I drilled it. But I had never drilled leg lats as much as I have in the last month ever before. I've done, the hour-long class that we have, that drill that we've done like 4 or 5 times, and then you move on to the next one type of thing. But because I've only been leg pummeling for a month, I was like, oh, I'm leg pummeling in my rolls all the time right now. I was even doing it with my dad. And I was thinking while I was doing it, and I was like, he probably hates this.
He doesn't do that with me.
No.
He doesn't give me his legs ever. Mm. He won't.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But did you have any other last minute things about leg locks that you wanted to bring up? I feel like we could talk forever about it.
The only other thing I bring up with leg locks is I am now more experienced with leg locks than most of the people I train with. So I get to leg positions often, and the thing that really helps me I mean, not just me, but helps everybody else so that they get comfortable with leg locks, is I never put any braking pressure into a leg lock. Like right now, if we were rolling and I got into a leg position that was dominant and I caught your heel, how often have you tapped to a heel hook from me recently?
A few, but I mean, how much of that is me actually putting any braking pressure into a leg lock? Right. I will catch it. And then
sometimes,
release it.
Yeah, but sometimes people will realize that it's caught and tap, which it's good. We have mutual respect there. And then sometimes I will catch it. People have no idea what the fuck's going on. And I just let it go because it's not worth me putting any braking pressure in and then then them already, since they didn't realize they were caught, if they move a certain way or aren't defending it the way that they can defend it while it's being caught, then I know this person is not experienced enough and I need to move on because this is not a win for me. Mm-hmm. This is me trying to boost my ego saying I'm tapping people. But I don't need that. I'm working this position. They obviously don't know the position. So why would I hold on to this and try to break their leg?
So you're doing a catch and release just to get that repetition in almost?
Get the repetition in. Yeah. It's like a mini drill, a live drill. Mm-hmm. And then...
It is a live drill because they're reacting. Yes. Not just being a dead fish hooky. They're like actually reacting to how you would do it.
Exactly. And then when I release, people get an experience of how to move in and out of leg locks for themselves, maybe without even them knowing it. Mm-hmm. Because now they realize their leg was caught, tied up, and then now they can move again, so they're realizing, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad being in leg entanglements. Yeah. Right? And I'm not putting fear into them by like scooping up their legs and then
ripping their knee apart. Yeah. I would say I'm doing that quite a bit with heel hooks right now, is I am trying to figure out where the openings are for them, and I'm trying to scoop up the heel the way that I would like to in a live roll, but I have not ever tried to yank on a heel to do a heel hook. I will just grab it and be like, oh, cool, it was there. And then I'll let it go to keep moving. Mm-hmm. And then I'll play around with it. And that's what I've been doing a lot with heel hooks.
Yeah.
I've maybe tapped out a few people with a heel hook, but it has never been like, I'm going to rip this off. It's more of like, I got this and I have their hip. Okay, I might as well finish it now. Rather than just being like,
sure, but I don't even put that braking pressure in on anybody right now. Mm. Unless I know that they're experienced and you can kind of feel that with each other.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not leg lock expert by any means either, but I feel like I'm starting to understand a lot more and I'm very aware of what's going on with my legs now, more so than I have been in the past.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that leg locks are a fun game to play, but they're a complex game to play, so you have to, again, drill and be ready for your partner, and this is why it's not good for white belts to be doing it unless they've drilled it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you can drill it safely with white belts.
Yeah, you can.
As long as they respect it like they would respect a freaking omoplata.
Right.
Because, like, if you do an omoplata as hard as you can, as fast as you can, I mean, every time I've ever done an omoplata in training, it's been slow as shit. Mm-hmm. You know, I never get an omoplata and jump up to their neck and say, sucker, you should have tapped faster.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's finish up with the things that we have coming up. So let's see, what is today? Apparently it's the 23rd. So on November 4th, which is a Friday, 4th, which is a Friday, don't get ahead of yourself. Come on now. We're doing an Xbox party at Fluid. So
that was the 11th.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we're doing a black gi party on the 4th. So if you train at Fluid, we would appreciate you showing up in a black gi for a surprise birthday party. Won't say who.
Oh. It's your word out there.
She's putting a Facebook event out. She just sent it to me yesterday. But yeah, so on the 4th, which is a Friday, it's a black gi event.
Maybe it's a birthday party for me.
No. And then November 5th, which is a Saturday, this guy is going to be doing a pancration fight in Waukesha. So if you're from the Milwaukee area, it's nice and close for you. You don't have to go to Chicago. You don't have to go to Florida. It's right in Waukesha. So that'll be on the 5th.
It's going to be a great time.
Tickets are at inversefighting.com. Just select Nick's name at checkout. They're about $42 after taxes.
Yep.
If you're interested, I'll be there. I need someone else there. Stop it. I need someone else there because I'm going to be freaking out the whole time. So I need someone to hold the camera. It's going to be all shaky and none of you will ever see it. So that's the 5th. And then on the 11th, we are doing an Xbox party, which is a Friday. So if you also train at Fluid, we will be having that. Steve Barron will be there. He'll be setting up about 12 to 15 Xboxes. You guys will have a party. I'll be rolling because I don't care about Xbox. And
I'll be playing Xbox and rolling at the same time.
I feel like a couple people will try to be doing that. And then we have Master Sauer coming up on November 19th and 20th. He's doing a 2-day seminar.
Here in Milwaukee.
At Fluid. Yep. Yeah. So he'll be here teaching his wizardry, which will be fun.
Yes. And next weekend we're going to be in Denver helping Brent teach a seminar.
Yeah.
Which is super exciting. That's why I wore my Morningstar rash guard.
Yep.
This is from Denver. This awesome dinosaur rash guard. I love it. Mm-hmm. But we also wanted to dress up Nogi for leg locks, just because it was a leg lock special episode.
Sure.
And I also teach leg locks in the gi. I don't care if it's gi or no gi. I still teach leg positioning, no matter what we're wearing.
As long as you're safe about it, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
So next weekend we'll be in Denver. So if you hear from us, it'll be from our hotel room.
Yeah. Or something.
Or maybe not at all. We'll see.
Yes.
So have a great week of training, guys.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. And it's fun talking about leg locks today.
Yes.
There's a lot more we could do. I'm sure we'll do another episode in the future.
Try out leg locks. Also, my favorite resource, if you're confused about leg locks, there's a video on YouTube called Leg Locks for Dummies. It's 3 parts.
It is good.
And it's very good. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
All right. Adios.
All right. Thanks, everybody.